Gee, isn't it so great that the Pacific is so peaceful? It's not as though there were a war that devastated millions of people across ethnic, cultural, and linguistic lines.
Miss Frizzle!
Actually, Dorothy, you're exactly right. However, you should have said, to what extent isn't the Pacific great?
Well, what exactly happened?
Everyone, to the bus. We're going to World War II.
Why can't we just have a normal adventure?
This will benefit you. After all, I am a nurturer.
Seatbelts, everyone! Please let this be a normal field trip. With a friend? No way!
Cruising on down Main Street, you're relaxed and feeling good. Next thing that you know, you see an octopus in the neighborhood. Surfing on a sine wave, swinging through the stars. Take a left at Joey Teston, take your second right past Mars on the magic school bus. Alligator nostril, climb on the magic school bus. Spank a plankton too.
Take that!
On our magic school bus. Drop the river of lava. On magic school bus. Such a fine thing to do. So strap your bums right to the seat. Come on in and don't be shy. Just to make your day complete. You might get baked into a pie on the magic school bus. Step inside, it's a wild ride. Come on, ride on the magic school bus.
Where are we, Miss Frizzle?
It's not where we are, it's when we are. We're at the Bataan Death March.
Death March?
At my old school, we never took a field trip to World War II. But that's okay. This is educational. In fact, more than 10,000 Filipinos and 650 American prisoners of war died on this brutal trail.
Gosh, that sounds painful.
Carlos!
Wow, that's not real nice of those Japanese soldiers.
You're right, Ralphie. A matter of fact, the general in charge of these guards, Masarahu Homa, was indicted for war crimes and executed by a firing squad.
But what did all the people in America think of this?
Good question, Dorothy. The American public was not informed of this march until 1944, near the end of the war.
Why are they moving those prisoners?
I heard that when the Japanese invaded the Philippines immediately after Pearl Harbor, they took over the army base in Marivilles and made them march 55 miles to Camp O'Donnell.
Excellent interjection, Phoebe. The Japanese believed they were liberating the Philippines by ridding them of American troops. The Japanese like to call their colonial possessions as the Greater Asian Pro-Prosperity Spirit.
I thought the Americans were the good guys. Why'd they do that?
Don't you remember the story we read in class 2 weeks ago? There's two sides to every story.
Now that's what I call a double front.
Carlos!
Well, class, it's time to move on to the next stop.
Whoa, where are we?
It's April 18th, 1942, 200 feet above the city of Tokyo. This one of 16 B-25 bombers ready to drop bombs over Japan. Over here is James Doolittle, the man in charge. Everything's too loud, so we can't hear you. If Doolittle had flown at the standard altitude, the Japanese military would have easily seen his planes on their radars.
Why was America here? Didn't we have other parts of the war to focus on?
Correct! America was still dealing with effects of Pearl Harbor and the Bataan Death March.
So did it work? Did we get them?
No, the raid did little damage to the city of Tokyo, but it did raise the morale of American citizens and troops. Also, they ran out of gas and needed to crash land. Doolittle's bombers ended up spread up over Japan, China, and the Soviet Union.
I knew I should have stayed home today.
Arnold, now we're looking at the Battle of Midway. Doesn't that make you feel better?
Not really.
Oh, come on, Arnold, stop being such a baby. I love learning about World War II history.
You, Ralphie, being interested in learning? I bet you didn't even know that the Battle of Midway is a huge pivotal turning moment in the history of the United States in the war.
That's very good, Dorothy. We can see here the American intelligence intercepting a Japanese radio call and decoding it.
And then what happened?
Well, not to put it lightly, but the United States was able to be ready to crush the Japanese front line and naval pilots because they knew exactly what they were going to hit.
So are you saying that the more the US got hit, the more they went back to fight?
Yes, exactly. They made it so the Japanese could not use Midway for their attack on Pearl Harbor. I'm going to introduce you to a few friends of mine who are very important in this historic war.
Is that them?
Yes. I am General MacArthur. I conducted a valiant delaying action against the Japanese in the Philippines after the war erupted. In March, I commanded the Allied forces in the Southwest Pacific Theater and launched an offensive in New Guinea that drove them out of New Guinea. By 1943, I undertook the reconquest of the southern Philippines and Borneo, and then was promoted to General of the Army in December 1944 and was appointed commander of all U.S. Army forces in the Pacific.
Wow, and who is that?
I am Admiral Nimitz, Commander-in-Chief of the Pacific Ocean region. I was appointed after Pearl Harbor by Mr. Roosevelt himself. First, I repelled the Japanese army at Midway, using carriers to their utmost potential. Then, I moved to the offensive. We conquered the Pacific by not conquering all of it. What we did was skip over heavily fortified islands when we could and capture the weaker islands. Later, the fortified islands would have to surrender under naval blockade and aerial raids. I helped with the conquest of key strongholds too, closer to Japan. Let's go to one of them now.
Here we are, class, the Battle of Iwo Jima.
Hey, the bus radio is going crazy.
That's because Iwo Jima is only 600 miles south of Tokyo. The bus is feeling the radio signals from the American and Japanese forces.
Wow. Where is everybody? Isn't there supposed to be a war going on?
Actually, the Japanese have dug a tunnel system underground. There are only 20,000 of them.
What?
Don't worry, by the end of the month, 90% of them will be dead. The largest American invasion force ever up to this point will have swept them out.
How could the American troops have survived an entire month? I shouldn't want to be in a big battle for a month.
As long as I have my Doritos, I can survive for months.
Don't be silly, Ralphie. Doritos haven't been invented yet. The American troops did not get it easy at all. They didn't have Doritos and they had to face the well-dug-in Japanese troops. In fact, the Americans had to attack the Japanese by air, but this may have been the Japanese dig even more tightly in a poorly tied shoelace. Look, class, over there. See those planes?
Well, according to my research, these planes over there are moving southward to us at maybe 400 kilometers per hour, or about 250 miles per hour, and are slowing down. They are flying in the direction with the wind, which is blowing in an eastward direction overall. If we look at our map, that means they must have left straight from Japan.
And Miss Frizzle said we were only within 600 miles from Japan. If they go at 250 miles per hour, that means those planes can leave Japan and reach here in around 2 hours. That's even longer than the time it takes for Canvas to load on the school Wi-Fi.
Actually, it would have been even less time, because whatever plane it was, it must have been going even faster before. Since it's been slowing down right now, no wonder why the Americans wanted this place. Iwo Jima is the last rest stop before Japan. It's a good place for the planes to refuel and get repairs once they return from their firebombing mission.
That's right, Dorothy. But it looks like that plane is heading straight for us. To the bus! Well, class, we're almost done with our adventure. Our last part is a large egg-shaped device that will ravage hundreds of thousands of people and leave other people permanently blinded or with incurable diseases that will leave all their limbs swollen.
That egg could do that much? Gee, Miss Frizzle, why would the Americans use an egg that would hurt so many people? You would think they would be trying to save thousands of lives by bringing the war to a quick conclusion instead of conducting an amphibious invasion of Japan and sustained firebombing. God,
Wow, that explosion really left Japan hard boiled.
Oh no, we're headed towards the ocean. Miss Frizzle, what are you doing?
Calm down, Arnold. We're just going to visit the USS Indianapolis.
We sure are, Ralphie. The USS Indianapolis was built between the two world wars. It was sunk on July 30th, 1945 by a Japanese submarine.
And the U.S. Navy didn't even tell the public that it was sunk, not until Japan surrendered.
That's true. The United States was pretty ashamed of this at the time, especially with its connections of the secret mission involving the transportation of materials meant for atomic bombs.
Alright, I understand. Can we go back to dry land now?
As I always say, class, sometimes the best choice isn't the easiest one to make.
You know what I think? War is terrible. It is sad that all of this happened. It's a good thing that World War II is over and to never return. My goodness, I hope that the dropping of the atomic bomb won't be followed by a global-scale talking conflict of mutually assured destruction fought by henchman countries of powerful nations, which almost comes to eradicate humanity or something.
Class, I think this is a good lesson for us all. Never underestimate the terror of warfare.
Cruising on down Main Street, you're relaxed and feeling good. Next thing that you know, you see it. Puss in the neighborhood, surfing on a sine wave, swinging through the stars. Take a left at your intestine, take your second right past Mars on the magic scuba. Navigator nostril, climb on the magic scuba. Spank a plankton too. On our magic scuba, drop the river of lava. On magic scuba, such a fine thing to do. So strap your bones right to the seat. Come on in and don't be shy. Just to make your day complete. You might get baked into a pie on the magic scuba. Step inside, it's a wild ride. Come on, right on.